Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I am your host, kohberger, here to give you an update. And as always, as a disclaimer, the show is for entertainment purposes only. These are my opinions, not here to slander anyone. With that being said, let's get started. I just wanted to give everybody an update because I haven't put out a video in a couple of weeks. I wanted to take a break, kind of clear my head before I really dive deep into the Kohberger is innocent beyond a reasonable doubt series. And instead of taking all the things that we see every day, I'm literally going through all of the court documents and I'm learning everything that I can about the real evidence that they have against Mr. Kohberger so that I can speak with some clarity and not just, sit there and ramble on like I see so many people do. And I've tried not to even watch anything on the Idaho 4 here in the last couple of weeks because I just wanted to get my head cleared. And anytime I turned it on, even for a few minutes, I realized that those guys would just, they keep regurgitating the same stuff over and over. And even after all that they've talked about, if you truly ask them what happened, they're right back to the ridiculous. So one thing that I did want to address in my last video that Mr. A.R. Hayes had asked me, and a few of my commenters commented on the fact that I didn't address it. He said, why Kohberger? Why do you always bring it up Kohberger? Why not something else? Well, it's blatantly obvious, and it's hard for me to understand why nobody else really likes to bring up Mr. Kohberger, because Mr. Kohberger is sitting in a jail on trial, and he's the only one on trial for this atrocity. So to not talk about the Kohberger aspect of this case, in my opinion, is ridiculous. And when we think about Mr. Kohberger, I've already given my dissertation on why I feel like he was a likely suspect. And it's not just because of the local Latah County law enforcement thinking that Mr. Kohberger did it is why he's on there, and that's why it's legitimate. You got to understand, in this case, there wasn't just a local Latah County. There was the state police, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. There was many organizations working on the outcome of this case. So law enforcement is not going to take a pristine, clean, young college student who is working frivolously to become a type of law enforcement and a criminal psychologist and totally frame him for an atrocity for no reason. Even if the local guys were corrupt and that was their plan, it would have fallen to pieces somewhere along the lines once the state police and the FBI became involved. They're not going to let it happen. Now, one thing that they may go along with, though, with the Kohberger is innocent beyond a reasonable doubt thinking, is the fact that if Mr. Kohberger wasn't pristine like we assume he was, and he was actually out using like I've asserted, well, you got to understand, that makes Mr. Kohberger less than a citizen if that was discovered by them, by all those agencies. Once the drugs are involved, if he's out using drugs, especially hard drugs like that, then they're way more apt to believe anything is possible, and he no longer becomes the pristine young college student. And then I've had other people suggest things like, well, wouldn't they have uncovered Mr. Kohberger's, illicit activities when he went and applied for an internship with the local police department? So that doesn't make sense. Well, folks, I got to ask you this question. You got a guy, 28 years old, who spent years upon years in his field of study, I mean, this guy would be a shoo-in to be hired by any law enforcement office, wouldn't he? That kind of background, physical capabilities. Yet, I don't believe they gave him that job. So how could somebody that's a shoo-in not get that internship job? They never did say that, did they? Well, that's because something was uncovered about the young man, either during a hair test analysis or during a background check. And once whatever was discovered about him prohibited him from getting that position, well, you got to think about Mr. Kohberger's mindset from that point forward. My goodness, I've just spent, 8 to 10 years studying to be in a law enforcement type position, or to at least be able to consult with law enforcement, and I can't even get an internship with a local podunk PD? What kind of mindset would that put Mr. Kohberger in from that point forward? That's just something to contemplate. Now, here's the other thing that I wanted to bring up. This gets completely away from the Idaho 4 case, because it'll be another week or so before I make the next video on the Idaho 4. But this is something I want everybody out there to be aware of, and this is not conspiracy theory. But if you are anywhere near the path of the eclipse that's going to happen Monday, April 8th, you need to be prepared for one of two reasons. And if nothing happens, if it's just a pretty eclipse, then there's nothing lost. But if something does happen, and by the way, you don't have to be near the eclipse zone to follow these simple suggestions, because whenever you start to look at the things surrounding an event, like the National Guard being put on readiness, then you know something potentially could happen that you need to be aware of and prepared for. Now, there's a couple of things that could go down Monday, April 8th, and this is serious. Number one, there are it's proven history that whenever there's a eclipse, because of the alignment of the sun, the moon, it does something to our seismic zones. Okay, and I just watched, one of the reasons I made this video was to update you on, when my next video would be coming out, but also to keep you prepared, because they just had an earthquake in New York. And I've been watching all the crazy videos about this eclipse coming up, and a lot of them have been talking about the earthquakes. And then when I just seen the earthquake happen in New York, I went, this is something that people need to be prepared for. So if there is something like an earthquake, well, guess what an earthquake is more than capable of? It's more than capable of disabling cell phone towers. It's more than capable of disabling the power grid and even disrupting the water systems. So the last thing you want to do in an event is not have any ways of communication. You certainly don't want to be without food. You definitely don't want to be without water. But, you just also want to be prepared, period. So I would recommend, before that event on Monday, a couple of simple recommendations, just so you're safe. Go get water. Go get enough water for 5 days. And that, by the way, that's what the state and federal agencies are recommending. They're recommending that you have supplies for 3 to 5 days. If you haven't seen that, well, you need to, because this could be real. You need supplies that will last you from 3 to 5 days. Go get a 5-day supply of water. Go get a 5-day supply of food. Go get a 5-day supply of light. Okay, because if the power's out, flashlights aren't going to last that long. Get a bunch of batteries, get candles, enough to last you 5 days. And then most importantly, if you have no means of communication, that TV doesn't come on, your internet doesn't work, your cell phone doesn't work, and you need to go somewhere, well, you're in trouble, especially if you rely completely on your cell phone to do things. So you need to go get two things. One, another thing I would recommend, I've already done it, I would go fill up every vehicle that you have and fill up extra gas cans. Because in an event like this, the gas stations, they're not going to operate. You're not going to be able to get any fuel. And if you need to get somewhere and you don't have any gas, then you're in a pickle. So go get gas. But also get some type of radio. And not a radio that connects to the internet, but an old style radio so that you have communications. You can figure out what's going on in case of an event. And you need to get a map in case you need to get somewhere. If you can't log into Google Maps and you don't know how to get where you're going, you're done. Go get a physical map. Those things you need to have, everything I just listed, you need to have just in case. Now, if there is an earthquake caused by the lunar activity, like there was in 1812 when the New Madrid earthquake hit, what caused it? Well, there was an eclipse, just like it's about to happen on April 8th across the United States. There was also a comet, and they say comets contribute to earthquake activity. Well, we're going to have a comet on that day as well, one that you can possibly see during the totality of the eclipse. Be prepared. They just had an earthquake in New York City. New York, 4.8. That could be just a precursor of what's to come. And, when was the last time you ever heard of an earthquake in New York? They're freaking out. It's all over the news. So this is not out of the realm of possibility. But the other thing that you need to be aware of that's a possibility is a couple of weeks ago, there was a cyber attack on AT&T, made their phones go out for a day. All the people with AT&T service couldn't make phone calls, couldn't find out where they were going. They were disrupted. That could have very well just been a simple test run. Because imagine this. During the course of this event, of this eclipse, they estimate 30 million people traveling to areas from the area that they live in to the area where the totality of this eclipse will be able to be viewed. 30 million people traveling. That doesn't happen. That is a very rare event that would cause that type of displacement of people. So if there are nefarious actors out there that want to cause havoc to the United States, the eclipse would be the perfect event for them to do that. Because if they cyber attack cell service during this event where 30 million people that don't normally travel are traveling, that's 30 million people that probably don't have paper maps. They don't know where to go. They're stuck where they're at. They use up all the resources where they're at, and then Bedlam, then it just turns into Bedlam. So there's a lot of reasons around this event that would cause somebody to say, I need to be prepared. So once again, and this is just because I care about y'all, make sure you have these essentials. Have 5 days of water. Have 5 days of candles or flashlights. Have a radio, a simple radio that picks up signals from the air through an antenna, an old style Radio Shack style radio, so you can hear what's going on. You can get information. Have 5 days of food. And what was the other thing I told you to have? Oh, get you a paper map and get you some gas in case you need to get somewhere. But that's just my intuition is really off the chart right now about this thing because of this earthquake that just happened in New York. That just kind of solidified it for me. And I want y'all to be prepared. But once again, over the next week or so, I'm continuing to go through every court document and learn everything I can about the true evidence they have against Mr. Kohberger in this case. And I want to have a good frame of thought whenever I present to you the Kohberger is innocent theory. Because as you know, I don't believe Kohberger is innocent. And once I get done with the Kohberger is innocent theory, I'm going to go right back to what I truly believe happened, and I've already explained to you that. But once again, thanks for tuning in. I know I haven't been with you in a while. I'll be with you a lot more here soon. And please subscribe and like the channel. And once again, folks, Pavarotti is out.